everybody. Jason back with another movie review. I'm continuing the Rocky series again, and we are on Rocky Part 2. And this came out in 1979. It was 3 years after the original. Like I said in the last review, they didn't plan on any sequels. But it did so well that they were eagerly ready to at least do a second part. And by going by this sheet right here, it made over $200 million in the box office overall. So that's, to me, is outstanding. It finished in the top 3 highest grossing films of 1979. So I think that's pretty cool. It did a great job, especially for being back in 1979. So that's pretty cool. All right, let's go over some cast members. Most of them are exactly the same as the first one, which actually is great because it ties it together. Obviously, again, we got to go over Sylvester Stallone as Rocky Balboa. And I had absolutely no problem with him in the first one. And I'm going to continue and say that I had no problem with the character of Rocky here and also the actor of Sylvester Stallone. I think he did a fabulous job on this. And again, I cannot think of anybody else that could play this part. Talia Shire as Adrian Balboa, Rocky's love interest, and also in this one, they get married. So now it's his wife from now on. Burt Young plays Paulie Panino, which again is Rocky's friend and brother of Adrian. Again, he did a great job on this one as well. Carl Weathers plays Apollo Creed, who is currently the heavyweight champion of the world, which he fought in the first one at the very end, and Apollo retained his title. Burgess Meredith as Mickey Goldmill, again, Rocky's friend, manager, and trainer. Again, Burgess Meredith did great in this film. I got no problems with the characters and the actors in this film at all. Again, a small part by Joe Spinell, which again plays Tony Gazzo, and you see him a little bit here. And lastly, Tony Burton as Duke, which is Apollo's trainer, kind of like a father figure to him, pretty much. I didn't really mention him in the first one, so I figured let's mention him here. He did a great job, and also you see him throughout the Rocky series, pretty much every part. So I thought it was worth the mention for sure. All right, let's get right into the production. The plot. And it instantly it's right after the original one. As soon as they're done, in the ring, they all get wheeled off to the hospital. And like I said in the original, Apollo broke his ribs, and Rocky had severe damage to his eye, plus a broken nose. So there was a lot of surgery they had to do, and also a lot of healing. And that's what happens in the very beginning. But there is a good scene right here that I do like. And Rocky actually got up. He is all bandaged up, but he wheels himself down over to Apollo's room and asks him for the truth. Did he try his best? And before all this, right when they first entered the hospital, Apollo was furious because the rumor had already been circulated that Rocky should have won, and that Apollo had cheated, and that's the reason why he won. And so Apollo, even though at the end of the first one, they didn't want no rematch, Apollo was ready for him to actually to fight him right there in the hospital. But when Rocky approached him again later on, like I was saying, he asked him for the truth, if he fought him the hardest that he could. And Apollo agreed, yes, I did. I tried my hardest. So I think at this point, I like this scene because I really think that Apollo had a lot of respect for Rocky at this point. And I think at the very beginning, he was just frustrated and he was ready to actually fight him right there in the hospital. So basically, after all his healing, Apollo actually challenged Rocky to a rematch. And Rocky he declines and he officially retires from boxing. And of course, Adrian supports this decision. She thinks, and also the doctors think that he could lose his eyesight completely and maybe even go brain dead if he actually fights one more time. So basically, after he's released from the hospital, massive people are approaching him to take advantage of the opportunity to collect on the money that his name can now do, including stuff like commercials. They approached him to do some commercials. They've approached him to do a Rocky doll where you can just punch and beat up this doll that looked like Rocky. And ultimately, Rocky did not want to do anything at this point. He had one mission at this point to do, and he took Adrian over to the zoo and asked Adrian to marry him, and they did. They got married, and there was a nice wedding, and all his favorite, Tony Gazzo, Mickey, Burt Young's character was there. Very small, but it was very cool. At the same time, here you're seeing Apollo Creed going through a bunch of hate mail. Everybody hates Apollo Creed because of what happened. They again are believing that Rocky should have won. In my opinion, just by looking at it, I think Rocky, if he did not win, if he wasn't supposed to win, he was very closer than they made it seem. But again, when they did the first one, there was no reason for Rocky to win. That wasn't the point, honestly. So, again, at this time, Apollo does whatever necessary, to get him back in the ring by kind of put, negative press out from Rocky, for Rocky, and like saying that he's chicken, the Italian chicken, for example. At first, Rocky, he seems unaffected by any of this smear campaign that he's doing. But the inexperience with the money causes him to run to a bunch of financial problems. For example, he buys a brand new car. He buys gold watches. They buy a house together, which is okay. I'm sure they didn't want to live in that rundown apartment that Rocky lived in the first one. And he is forced to do manual labor, which he does not want to do. He ends up working over at the meat locker that Paulie works at. Paulie got him a job. He's got to do whatever it takes to get some more money in the family. At the same time, Adrian is actually pregnant with Rocky Jr., which we see this character from now on. But yeah, she's pregnant. You obviously see Rocky frustrated with this manual labor, and unfortunately he's let go pretty early on. And Mickey, on the other hand, sees all this smear campaign of Apollo Creed on TV, and he is furious with Apollo, and he approaches Rocky at the house, and he thinks that they need to beat this guy up and win, prove that he actually won. And at this point, Rocky agrees. Of course, Adrian does not like this. But obviously, by the end of it, she's okay with it. But Mickey declines at first, saying that he doesn't think Rocky's health is good. But after all this publicity insults, that Apollo did, of course, Mickey is going to agree to this. And so they go through a lot of you see him going through a lot of training with him, and his Rocky's mind is not there at this point because of the fact that Adrian's giving him a hard time about this, and he just cannot concentrate. And Mickey approaches him about this, and of course, Rocky doesn't want to admit what the real problem is. By the time they're talking to each other, there is an issue with Adrian. Paulie approaches Adrian at the feed store that she actually ended up working part-time again over at the pet store, and she ends up she slips into a coma, which at this point Rocky didn't care about the boxing. He does a lot of praying and spends a lot of time with Adrian, who's in a coma at the hospital. But she ends up waking up, and at that point she changes her mind. She wants him to win this time. So then from now on, when he is training with Mickey, he is giving it 100%. He does awesome. And at the very end of the training, you notice he's running again, just like in the original. However, you see a bunch of kids following him on this long run, and he ends up on the Rocky stairs with all these kids. It's a great scene. It's awesome. So basically, the night again of the match, that when it arrives, Apollo has made the public goal of beating Rocky quickly. He wanted to do it in less than 2 rounds, and just to prove that the first one was just a fluke, and that Apollo just took it easy on him. So, and this time you could tell Apollo was a lot more serious. You don't have the Uncle Sam outfit. He totally went in there all serious. No games this time, and so basically, during the training, Rocky was no longer southpaw. He had fought to be a right-handed fighter, and so the entire match, he's actually fighting right-handed. So in the final round, to switch it up a little bit, Rocky switched fighting back to left-handed to kind of trick Apollo, and by the end of it, they both hit each other, and they both got knocked down at the same time. So they do a countdown, of 10, and if they both don't go up, then automatically Apollo Creed wins by default. Of course, Rocky gets up and Apollo stays down, and Rocky wins. And this is my favorite scene right here, honestly, when Rocky's being interviewed, and just it gives me goosebumps. I hate to say that, honestly, but it gives me goosebumps every time I watch this, because this is what we wanted in the first one. I mean, looking back on it now, it's totally understandable, but we knew that Rocky had to win this one, and so I thought that was pretty cool. It ended on Rocky hugging Mickey this time, just like the original with Adrian. Adrian was actually at home with Paulie watching it on TV, and that was the end of it. And so that's pretty much it. And I'm looking at this piece of paper right here, and the ending of the fight sequence posed a challenge, because at the time Talia Shire was busy filming another film, and so she couldn't be on set with Rocky. Just like in the first one where she ran up to at the end, she couldn't be there. That's why they came up with the idea, that she stays home with the baby. It makes sense. So it was actually filmed several months later after the shoot. So that's pretty cool. And also, an estimated 800 school children were used as extras in the scene in which Rocky runs through Philadelphia. So that's pretty cool that they actually got involved with a bunch of kids. I'm sure that was a fun time. All right, everybody. This one, honestly, again, the first one is my absolute favorite one right here. The second one is somewhere below that, but it's very close. It ties in very well with the original. You got the original cast, and it's the rematch. So I like to watch the first and second one back to back. This one doesn't. The Rocky one, I gave it a 10 out of 10. I'll give this one a 8 out of 10. Very strong 8. It's not perfect. You see him struggling a bit in this one, but you don't see him like he did in the first one. He was struggling in a different way. He was lonely. So the little bit of fame and the money that he got, I don't think is good for him. And when we continue on with the series, I'll tell you what I think about all this money and fame that he's gonna come with becoming the champion of the world. So, again, this was 8 out of 10, and I highly recommend watching this one. Watch the first one and then watch this one. They tie very well together. All right. Thanks a lot, everybody, for being here, and please do me a favor and subscribe by clicking this button right here. If you click this button, you can subscribe that way. Also, I will have a couple of links right here, a couple of videos. If you click on them, it will go to those videos. All right. Thanks a lot, everybody. I appreciate it, and we'll see you next time.